Hi, I'm Gina, creator and host of Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that is designed to have real talk around all things midlife and strategies to help us live a more vibrant second half. It is my deepest desire to help other people shift the conversation toward empowerment, toward vibrancy, toward excitement about what life has for us and what we can bring to the world, how we can each individually shine our light. So I invite you to grab a cup of something wonderful, to join me each week or when you can, and join me in my living room to have these conversations. And if you are enjoying this, please take the time to subscribe wherever you listen, rate my podcast, and share the episodes that help you, the episodes that encourage you. Let's build this community together. Welcome to my tribe. I'm so grateful you're here. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife. And we talk about how to live life more vibrantly. Now, last week we were talking with Dierdre Wolownick. She is a linguist, a climber, and an author. She left us with a cliffhanger, learning about jugging in the middle of her climbing journey. And her book, The Sharp End of Life, is about her experience of life. Becoming a climber was a big part of it. And we ended our conversation last week in her talking about learning how to jug and how difficult it was. And there was only one place she could find to learn. So, Dierdre, welcome back to the show this week.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me yet again.
Yet again, I had to hear the end, you know. So why don't you go ahead and continue the conversation? You were talking about climbing El Capitan with your son, Alex, and he said you had to learn to jug. Yeah. And then he went off for another 6-8 months, right, and you had to figure it out. So that's where we are in the story. Why don't we pick that back up?
So jugging is means using Jumars. Climbers call them jugs, but they're Jumars. Jumar is a big metal handle. The inner mechanism has teeth. You can open it or close it. So you have one for each hand, right and left, and those attached to your harness, and they attach to your foot, right and left. So you clip these things onto the rope. They have teeth, so they can't come down the rope, but you can push them up. So you push up the right side, which raises your foot because you're attached to it. Then you stand up on that. Then you push up the left side to join it on the rope. You're on a single rope, so they're both on the same rope. So then you push up the next side, you stand on that. So you basically ladder your way up the rope. Your feet are on the rock, just like, regular climbing, but your hands are on these things. And once in a while, you have to use the rock as well, just for help, but for help or for technique, to get past a certain spot. But mostly your hands are on these Jumars. And boy, is it hard work, physically hard work. And I didn't have any, I'm skinny, scrawny, kind of like my son. He takes after the Wolownick side of the family physically. And so I don't have really any muscles from the waist up. I don't have any muscles. So I had to really work on that because it's excruciatingly hard work.
And so how long did it take you to feel comfortable doing that?
Well, the first time I tried it in a climbing gym, and which the wall was about 35 feet tall. And the first time I got on the Jumars, when you leave the ground, you start to spin, because you're on a rope, go whichever way. And when you're outdoors, the wind makes you start to spin and then spin the other way. If there's a rock right in front of you, you can kind of anchor your feet and keep yourself steady. But otherwise, so the first time I tried, it was 35 feet. By the time I got to the top, my hands were bleeding. My shins were both purple and yellow and green from the metal parts banging into it with each step. It's such hard work. And then I did the arithmetic, 35 feet. Okay, I need to be able to go 3,200 feet. So I needed to be able to do that about 100 times. So I went home, did the arithmetic, and figured out, I was a college teacher then. And so about 18 weeks is a college course, more or less, 15 to 18 weeks. So I looked at my calendar and I set out 18 weeks, 3 days a week. And I practiced on those darn Jumars for 2 days of Jumaring and 1 day of serious heavy duty cardio work, either running or climbing uphill, hiking rather uphill or something seriously cardio, because there's a lot of that involved in going up that high at elevation, all that hard work. So I trained for 18 weeks, and it didn't take me that long to get comfortable, obviously. By a month or so, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. And then I went outdoors to do it with my son. He wanted to know if he was investing his time wisely, because he was going to give me an entire day to get me up this rock. He wanted to see if I could, knew how to Jumar. And I did. And I passed the test and all that. and kept practicing for 18 weeks.
So from the point you learned to Jumar, when did he take you to El Capitan, and what was the process for you? Was there more preparation than that?
My preparation consisted entirely of what I just described, 18 weeks of 2 days on the wall using Jumars, because there are on El Capitan and some other walls, but mostly El Cap, there are ropes that are always fixed there. They always hang there. The climbers use them for various things, to haul stuff, to move from one climb to another, to come down for the night and then go back out to their climb, like the Dawn Wall. Did you see the Dawn Wall? Tommy Caldwell and his buddy Kevin, they spent, I don't know, 6 weeks or something doing the Dawn Wall. And so they would come down at night and then Jumar back up to where they'd stopped, and start again. So these ropes are always there. And so I used them to practice jugging. And the ropes go up to about 1,000 feet. So it's serious jugging. I really did perfect it, not perfected, but I knew what to do. I knew I could handle any eventuality, like a knot in the rope. If there's a knot in the rope and you're trying to glide up it, boy, does that make it hard. I had to figure that out really early on, because when you're on a rope, you're alone. You can go there with a partner, of course, but you have to be on the rope alone. There's only one rope and you're on it. If somebody else gets on it too, they'll pull you off the rock. So, it's only one person at a time. And the very first time I did it outdoors, I was alone. I went out there by myself to El Cap and tried it, following my son's advice. He takes these things lightly because to him it's child's play. But to me, it was terrifying that for the very first time. So so that's how it works.
Now, as far as elevation goes, what is the height difference of El Cap?
The valley floor, Yosemite Valley, is at 4,000 feet. The top of El Cap is 3,200 feet higher, so 7,200. So you have to go up about 3,000 feet.
Okay.
By the time you get to the top, especially using Jumars all the way, you're seriously feeling the elevation. I mean, that's not much elevation for me. I mean, I've gone way up, higher than that in terms of climbing and hiking and stuff. But when you're working that hard, that fast, in 1 day like that, you start to feel the elevation too.
The day that you climbed, was there someone taking pictures? Did this become kind of a big deal because of your age, anything like that?
No, I was just out there doing it because I wanted to do it, see if I could do it. And nobody took any pictures. No, I have no pictures. Biggest day of my life, I have no pictures. Only one. My son took a selfie with the two of us, and about midway up. That's the only picture I have. We were too busy to take pictures. I was way too busy.
Now, how old were you when you climbed El Capitan?
I was 66. Yeah, about a decade prior to that, I had started running. I had become a runner, a long distance run. I started short and out of breath and all that, but I wound up doing marathons and half marathons. And so I gotten into pretty serious good shape in those 10 years prior, So I did it at the age of 66.
Wow. And tell me, what has happened in climbing since then? Where else have you climbed since that?
I have climbed in various parts of the world. I've climbed in France and in Greece and in Mexico and Canada a little bit, and various parts of the United States, several states. Everywhere you go, the rock is a little bit different, and it's a different experience. And when you go abroad, of course, the cultural experience as well. And for me, of course, it's very important, the linguistic experience, So yeah, it's exciting. It's something different, and it's challenging. And I love all that.
What would you say, Dierdre, is one of the greatest lessons you've learned from your experience of rock climbing, the journey that you've been through?
That's an enormous question.
Oh, we've got some time, so.
There are so many. Climbing is different from all other sports, I think, because it's just you against you. I mean, there's no competition. There can be competition in climbing. That's a different world altogether. That's usually indoors. And anyway, so it's you against you. And there's a lot of fear involved when you're starting, not so much for my son right now, but when you're starting, rock is unforgiving. Indoors in the gym I'm not going to say it's easy, but you can get hurt falling in the gym. You can. If you're lead climbing and you're not attached to anything, you can get hurt. But the floor is rubber and spongy, and the climbs have colored holds so you know where to go. And it's a different world. But when you start taking it outdoors, you have to learn, to trust your belayer. There's a serious trust issue involved in climbing. I don't think, I guess that's true in some other sports. I haven't tried them all, but you really have to trust your belayer. I was just climbing this week with a person, young woman who had climbed a long time ago. She said, I'm not sure how long, but from her description, she had a belayer that she did not trust. And it put the fear in her, deep rooted. I mean, she was afraid to lean back on the rope because she never knew with that other person what was going to happen if she did that. You have to learn to trust your belayer. And if you don't trust your belayer, don't climb with them. Find another one. And you have to learn to trust yourself. You have to find out what you can do. You have to know what you can't do. And if you can't do a particular move or a particular whatever, you have to learn how to figure out different techniques to get you around that point. Because once you go up half a wall, you can't just stop. Call a taxi. You can't just stop. So you have to figure it out. There's a good reason that for that reason, the climbs, bouldering or climbing, doesn't matter what kind, but they call the routes problems, a bouldering problem, climbing problem, because it's all problem solving. Climbing is like 99% cerebral, mental, whatever. And you have to figure out, and there's a lot of physics involved. You have to figure out, the angle of fall. It's very important. If you're leading, especially if you fall, which direction are you going to go? Are you going to hit anything? Is there a tree in the way, a block of rock in the way? So that it's very cerebral, and you have to figure out how to get from point A to point B. So that was a very surprising lesson for me. I figured, climbing, you have to be strong. You have to be really powerful and strong. Not at all. Not at all. I know some teeny tiny little Vietnamese ladies, they're 4 foot not. They climb like crazy. It's technique, not physical strength. And you have to learn how to dig deep, really dig deep. That was something I've been active all my life, skating and biking and all kinds of activity, played soccer and things like that with friends. But I've never engaged in a sport or an activity where if you don't do it right, you're going to die, or somebody else is going to die. You're going to take somebody with you or cause them to fall off and die. That's never, ever come up before. And not only that part of it, but you have to be able to, like I said, you get halfway up the wall or you're out into the wilderness, and you can't just stop and turn around and say, oh, well, no, I changed my mind. You have to finish. And in order to finish, a lot of the things that I did with Alex especially, I had to learn to dig really, really deep and just convince myself to keep going. One more step. I can do one more hold. I can do one more, whatever it was. There have been times when I didn't think I could do one more step, and I just wanted to lie down and die, literally. And you have to just learn how to dig down and talk yourself out of that. And that's a very satisfying skill to have, to know that you can do that. I didn't know that before, and it opens up doors. And the only way to find out these things is to go out and do it.
There's so many life parallels to those thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
This is why my son goes all around the world speaking to big corporations. He speaks about risk. He speaks about, consequence. It has nothing to do with climbing exactly, but yeah, like you say, these are life skills. And most people breeze through life without these skills, and they don't even know that they exist, like me before, And yeah, it's an amazing journey, really amazing.
I'm wondering what perspective this season of your life has given you on something like this, because you really have stepped outside of your normal behavior and activity and goals of anybody, probably even over the age of 50.
Right.
You're a decade and a half beyond that doing these things. And now you're in your 70s and still doing it. So I'd love to hear, how that was for you, because it's so much later in life. We talked about this in the last conversation, which is what's expected of us at a certain age. We wind down, we do less, right? We become more sedentary.
And you always have to ask, expected by whom?
Right. But we talked about the media and the things that we hear. So here you are being very, let's say, countercultural in the way that you're living, which is so inspiring. So let's talk a little bit about your perspective as a woman over 60, now over 70, that's doing these things that you're not supposed to be able to do,
Well, it kind of all comes down to who are you going to trust and believe? The media and the culture, or yourself? That's the choice you really have to make. And nature pushes us to trust ourselves. And that's why it's so important to get out into Mother Nature and seek out these lessons, if you want to call them that. Seek out these doors to open, whatever you want to call it, however you want to picture it in your mind. Mother Nature offers us that. Even just a little hike in a local green park, it does us a phenomenal amount of good just to get out into Mother Nature, to embrace the fact that we are part of nature. We are not a part of technology. Technology is invented, but we are a part of nature. And the more we embrace that, the farther we'll go in terms of growth, personal growth, ability, and satisfaction, especially.
It's really interesting. You're talking about natural versus synthetic, basically. We live in a much more manufactured environment than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
150 years ago.
50 years ago. Yeah.
True.
It's moving way too fast. And not because I'm old, but because it's moving way too fast. And we are not in control of it.
Now I understand that on top of these amazing experiences that you have, after the age of 66, you've climbed, you've written a book, you're ticking several books, but you're ticking these things off of your list. And added to that, which I cannot wait for, but I'm going to have to, is one of my previous guests, Melissa Davey, introduced us because she did a documentary called Beyond 60. And she actually did that about the age of 66. Right. And you are the subject solo of her second documentary.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about that experience. How did you feel being the subject of a film? Look at you.
Yeah, it's really weird. Because I'm a very, not shy anymore. I was shy, but I'm a very private, quiet person, and this is like the anathema of that. But my son is too. And they made that magnificent movie about him. But in his mind, it's not about him. It's about El Capitan, where he spent a good part of his life. And he was so delighted that they would make a film with El Cap as the star, as it were, because he's thoroughly convinced that anybody can do what he does. But it's kind of the same. I mean, I did it to get that message out there, not for me. I don't care about being in a movie, but that message is so important and so completely overlooked by our society. Look at all the magazines. I have all kinds of, climbing magazines and running magazines all around the house. Nowhere will you find any images of older people. What's with that? I find that insulting. I know a lot of older people, even older than me, who are out doing amazing things. Why aren't they in the images you see? I don't get that. When I was 4 and following the bigger boys to go climbing, I never understood that. Why? Why should we, bow down to this culture of ours that says, no, if you're 50, you should be sitting in a rocking chair and shelling peas or,
Mm-hmm.
I never bought into that, and I don't understand why anybody would.
How long was the process of making that film? And did you do any climbing in it?
Oh, yeah. There have been many iterations of my life, so she kind of touched on all of them, because I've been a publisher. I was an independent publisher for a while. I've been an artist all my life. I sell my paintings. I've been a performing musician all my life. I conducted an orchestra for 4 years, one that I created. So I've done a lot of different things. I've worked in airlines and worked here and there. So she came out. Of course, she's using images from all of my life, but she came out and we recorded. I guess recorded is the word. Filmed, but there's no film involved anymore.
Right, it's all digital.
I stumble over that word each time because there's no film involved. So, but we filmed, whatever you want to call that, in Yosemite, and they got me climbing some stuff, and where else did we climb? In the climbing gym. We filmed in the climbing gym here in Sacramento, and at my home here at my house. So she seems to have a real sharp eye, what to portray, what to show, and how. And the trailer she did a really nice job on the trailer. I hope maybe you'll show the link to that trailer in this, because it's a real catcher. It catches your attention, catches your interest, and she did a really nice job on it. So I hope she does as good a job on the movie as she did on the trailer.
And when is that due to come out?
It's called Climbing into Life. I didn't get a say in that, but she called it Climbing into Life. And the trailer's out now. The film, she's taking it to film festivals, around the country, the world, whatever. And last time with her first movie, she won awards at the film festivals. So she clearly knows what she's doing, So it's a one-person company, this filmmaker. And she clearly knows what she's doing. So she's taking our movie to the film festivals first. And then after that, it depends on, who picks it up and who distributes it and where it'll go. But it'll no doubt be 2023 when the movie comes out.
Oh, that's fantastic. Don't you also hold some records, or a record?
I do.
What is that?
I had no idea for a long time afterwards. But when I did that climb with Alex, I was 66. And like I said, I only did it to see if I could do it. I just wanted to see what it was like to be up on El Cap, to hang on the wall there, and curiosity. And then I came down and resumed my life, and back to climbing at the gym and with my friends and stuff. And was I still teaching? No, I wasn't teaching then, but I was still writing. I was writing several books and articles and essays and stuff. So I bumped into a friend he runs a climbing gym in the Bay Area, and I was at the gym, and we were chatting about what I had done with Alex. And his name is Hans Florine. They call him Mr. El Cap because he's been up El Cap, I don't know, 110 times or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and he knows it inch by inch, as well as my son does. And he said, just mentioned in passing, I bet you're the oldest woman to ever do that. And so he said, I'll look into that. And sure enough, I'm the oldest woman by far to ever climb El Capitan. The caveat there is for the professional climbers, for the elite climbers, I didn't technically climb it. I climbed it on Jumars, it's a little bit different. But that's very different. I could not climb El Cap. It's way too hard technical climbing for me. I don't have the upper body strength. I don't have the stamina. And I did try to learn how to, to follow Alex up, just doing it climber. But it involves cleaning the route behind the lead climber. Alex would put gear into the rock, attach the rope to it in case he fell, and then keep going and sew it up, each pitch. And then the second climber, as they come up, they pull out that gear, put it on their harness. So you leave no trace. But on El Cap, that involves a lot of swinging about and hanging upside down and pulling the stuff out. I couldn't do it. I tried it on, lower climbs, and it's just too hard physical work for me. So that's why I wound up Jumaring the whole thing. So I'm the oldest woman to ever climb El Cap, but I didn't climb it technically. So just to put that out there to satisfy the real, the elite climbers. But so I'm the oldest woman by like 10 years or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. And then this year, of course, 4 years later, I did it again. So I beat my own record.
So when's the last time you climbed El Capitan?
From my 70th birthday.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. That was in September, last September.
Now, what is your next adventure going to be, Dierdre?
Well, this August, if all goes well and the place isn't burning down. I mean, there's a horrible fire outside Yosemite right now. A really, really big one's raging.
Mariposa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a good friend who lost his everything, lost everything. A lot of people. But, God willing, and the creek don't rise, and if it's not burning, we're going to go do the guy who led all of us up El Cap for my birthday. He and I and some other friend are going to climb a big pinnacle of rock, a huge, what do they call it? A needle that stands straight up out of nowhere, up in Tuolumne, which is 4,000 feet higher than Yosemite. We're going to do a thing called Icorn Pinnacle. And I've, ever since the first time I saw it, I was with Alex, one of these climbs on the wall here.
Yes.
When we're on the second one, that second photo, that's the top of Cathedral Peak. And from that summit, if you look behind you, you see this pinnacle. And the first time I did that with Alex, I turned around and, whoa, what is that? I want to climb that. But I assumed it was beyond me. But it's not. There are moderate or easier climbs that go up that needle. And so we're going to go do Icorn Pinnacle. And then in October, I'm going to get to climb in the Dolomites in Italy and in the Alps in Switzerland, because I'll be speaking there with my book and my slideshow presentation. So they're going to take me climbing while I'm there.
That is going to be absolutely gorgeous.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I can't wait. I'm just hoping COVID doesn't shut stuff down.
Yeah. That would be great if it didn't.
Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, for yourself, where are you at in this journey emotionally and psychologically with what you've accomplished, and how you're looking forward from this vantage point with what you want to accomplish?
Well, the looking forward part is just little by little, step by step, looking forward to doing Icorn Pinnacle in August next month. And then after I accomplish that, I don't think of it in those terms. It's just little baby steps. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do anything by little baby steps. I firmly believe that. And it's been borne out over and over in my life. I didn't know how to do a lot of the things that I've done. I didn't know what was involved in being a publisher, but I became one. I found out at baby steps by baby steps. So I don't think of it as, huge goals like that. Like, even El Cap, it was a huge goal, but I didn't think of it in terms of, wow, major accomplishment. You can't really, not if you're going to, I don't know, I'm figuring this out as we go, but there has to be stuff after. I mean, you can't, pile your entire life's self-worth on one accomplishment. It's just one of many. I climbed El Cap. Now I'm going to climb this. After that, I'm going to go climb in the Dolomites. And after that, maybe, and I'm going to climb in Greece as well. I'm going to be speaking in Greece as well in October and November. And so it's just one little step. I have a lot of little steps coming up. I have books, a lot of books up here that I need to get out. And I need an agent. I mean, my agent left the agency and couldn't take me with her to the new one. So I'm kind of floating. And so I need representation. I need representation for my physical work as well, for my climbing, the climbing side. I am kind of semi-sponsored by La Sportiva. They make a lot of climbing gear, shoes and clothing and stuff. And they've been wonderful to work with. And so I'd love to expand all of that, because I feel like I'm just starting. People say, oh, you're 70. Oh, that's so old. No, it's not. It's only old if you believe it is. I feel like I'm just getting started. My life took many turns in my 50s, my 60s, and that can't be it. That can't be it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just getting started. And with all the public speaking that I do, that is, turning out to be loads of fun and motivating and inspiring for a lot of people. And I love it, and so that's what I'll be doing in the 3 countries of Europe where I'm going in October. And so, so I have lots of stuff to look forward to, and I'm just getting started rolling.
I love how you put that, though. It's not great or even optimal to take everything, all your hopes and dreams, and put it into one place.
Right, exactly.
Because then it's like the end of the road, isn't it? Mentally and emotionally.
Right. What would you do after that? That would be a major come down after after that,
Yeah. It's really a good mindset tip that you're sharing, that you, instead of looking at these things as like giant accomplishments or this one big thing, you're looking at it more along the lines of you're taking a journey. It's a step along that journey. Maybe some steps are a little bit bigger, if you will.
Yeah.
They might require a little more of you.
Some baby steps, some giant steps, but they're all just steps along the way.
That's such a good way of looking at it. And what's inspiring about, well, there's a lot of things inspiring about you. I love how you are just very practical about it. You're allowing yourself to sit in the problem. You're allowing yourself to sit in that moment of, I don't feel capable of doing this. Right. I'm not strong enough or whatever. But you're still leaving room for there's a possibility.
There's a lot of doubt, doubt and fear involved in this. But you have to just learn to talk yourself out of it, through it, and see the little glimmer of hope.
Now, is that really the key? Because I'd like to take a moment to talk about that, because you've brought it up several times, the idea of how you're handling your own fear and the voices in your head that are telling you, I'm sure, that you can't or it's too hard.
Yeah.
What process are you using to quiet those voices so that you can?
So many different things. One sort of a pre-step is journaling. In your journal, you can figure anything out. Journal is the best thing in the world. You can figure anything out. And you can figure out your own mindset and figure out how you're jeopardizing your own progress. All kinds of things can come to the fore if you journal regularly,
Yeah.
Interestingly, yesterday I was at the climbing gym with a young woman who, I think I mentioned her, she had been climbing, with someone she didn't really trust. And she got on a climb, and I was belaying her, and she got to like the middle of the climb, and I could see she was working really hard, and which is good. And she got to the middle of this climb, and she just got afraid. She got scared. She was scared that she couldn't do it, scared that it was too hard for her. She was conditioned to feel fear from all those years of not trusting a person at the other end of the rope. That's a harsh situation. And I knew that, so I didn't let her down. And I just shouted up advice. Okay, put your foot on that pink holder and shake out your arms. Just stop. And I held her as tightly as I could so she could feel the rope, that I could, I was at the other end holding her. And she did that, and she didn't cry. I know she was ready to. She got all the earmarks of, panic. It was panic. And so I let her stand there. You have to shake out your arms to get the lactose out, flowing through your. Anyway, she did that. And then she did another foot or two on the climb. And then she stopped again. She was figuring it out, but she was operating with this history, like most of us do, that we aren't capable of figuring it out. We have to depend on someone else. We have to depend on our doctor. We have to depend on our screen. We have to depend on the media to tell us what to do. I didn't let her down the second time. I just said, okay, put your hands. Did you see that hold over to her? Just put your hand on that, shake out your other. I told her exactly what to do, and I held her really tight. And son of a gun, she finished the whole climb doing it that way. And we're all capable of doing that. That's the lesson right there. We're all capable of doing that with enough encouragement, with enough I hesitate to call it confidence because it grows and grows, with enough ability to beat down our self-doubt.
It's just enough belief in that moment to overcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in climbing, it's just one more hold. In running, it was, one more block. First time I did a marathon, I really learned this. I got to like mile 24 out of 26. And marathon's 26.2. And I got to mile 24 and I had to use a porta potty. And I did. I stopped, used it, came out. And I didn't remember coming out. I didn't remember it was up on someone's lawn. So it was a step down. And I twisted my ankle coming out.
Oh.
That's exactly right. That was my first reaction. Oh, no. Oh, shit. No. Not my ankle, my knee. I twisted my knee. And it really hurt. The pain was quite intense. And I'm thinking, oh, no. I trained for like 26 weeks. No, 18 weeks. I trained for 18 weeks to do that first marathon. That's my magic number. And I'm thinking, oh, no, 18 weeks of hard work. I'm not going to give that up. And so I stopped and I sat and I got up and I just walked around to loosen up my knee, which had, constricted pain. And so, and then I started walking, and walking a little faster, and then a little trot, and son of a gun, I did manage to finish that. Not in record time, but I did finish it, and I was very proud of that. So we're all able. We just need sometimes a little encouragement from the person at the other end of the rope. Or sometimes we can talk ourselves into that encouragement, If we have practiced in our journal, that's what a journal is good for. The practice, the rawness, the underlying rawness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the untangling. I think journals are great for untangling.
Untangling, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those thoughts that tangle us up, that we trip ourselves with.
We get all these messages from the media, from the doctors, from all our friends who say, oh, you're too old, Dierdre. You shouldn't be out doing, We get all these messages. We have to, like you say, sift through and untangle them and decide which ones we want to believe or not.
Mm-hmm. There it is. We get to decide after all these years.
We have the choice. We are in charge if we take charge. And most people give up that responsibility. They let the media take charge. They let their parents take charge. They let, whatever. They
believe in their powerlessness.
Yeah, exactly. We are all powerful if we take charge. There you go.
So I know you've given me so many amazing thought points, and I would love for you to wrap up our time together with maybe 3 things. If you're talking to someone over, let's say 50, 60 years old, what are 3 things you really want them to know about the future ahead of them and their ability?
3.
Well, you can do more than 3. I'll take anything you give me, Dierdre.
Okay. Well, recapping what I was just saying, you have to come to understand that you and only you are in charge of your life. That's the biggest hurdle. The media is not in charge. All your screens are telling you you're too old for XYZ, whatever it is. What do they know? They don't know how you feel. They don't know where you live and what your daily routine is, and they don't know what you eat, and they don't know how you feel, especially. They don't know any of that stuff. How dare they?
Mm-hmm.
How dare they presume to tell you how you feel or should not feel? We are in charge if we take charge. I mean, that's the basic lesson here. And this extends to every aspect of our lives. I mean, when we're young, it's our parents mostly who set the standards, set the rules. You're a girl, you shouldn't be doing it, X, Y, Z. That's how it was when I was a kid, because Eastern European child raising left a lot to be desired. And so I was the girl. I was the chore person at home. I was I had to do all the shopping, the food shopping every Saturday. I hated that. I had to do, and my brother went out and played. Okay. So I would see this happening. And in my head, I knew that this was wrong. And when I grew up, I was not going to treat my children that way. You are in charge. You make the choices for your life. I didn't have choices when I was a kid because my mother was handicapped. I had to, help her out. But then I grew up and I started taking charge of these choices that I had made when I was a kid, So you are the only one who can decide what's good for you. But you have to first figure out what is good for you. That is where the journal comes in handy. There's a lot to figure out about life. And we sort of coast through life, especially in school and especially on the media. We coast through life being entertained. Mm-hmm. That's basically what the media is for. It entertains us. And the more we're entertained and distracted, the easier we are to govern, by politicians. The easier we are to control in school or wherever else. We are not taught to think for ourselves. And that's what it all boils down to. You have to learn to think for yourself. Take charge.
Mm-hmm. It's that regaining your autonomy in the world. Exactly.
Most of us, you say regaining. Most of us never gain much autonomy at all in our daily lives.
Now, there's a profound thought. You can't regain something you never had. So there's the next challenge is, right. What does it look like to be autonomous? What does it look like to set a boundary?
A lot of parents ignore this aspect of parenting, but it's the most significant part of parenting. The only job of a parent is to make themselves obsolete, to prepare their child to be independent of them. And most parents I've known don't do that. They want their children to depend on them to make decisions for their jobs, for their life, for their marriages, whatever. They want their children to need them, to need help, need the screen, to need whatever. They want their children to need. And that's such a what do you call that?
It's a bit crippling.
Crippling. That's a good word for it. It's not a bit crippling. It is severely crippling. And a lot of us go through life not aware enough to fight that. Mm-hmm. So you got to make some choices there.
Yeah. Well, Dierdre, I have so enjoyed taking 2 days to talk to you. So I got lucky. We took a long time, so I got to hit you up twice, which has. Yeah. I'm not mad about it. Let's just put it that way.
Good.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing really your journey. And the biggest piece of it, outside of just being an inspiration, is how well you're articulating what it takes to live a life on the edge of normal or outside of that normal in a way that is normal for you. I love that. Right. And that's that message that I want to share, because see, I'm still far enough behind you that people can still say, well, you're still in your 50s. But the older you get, it becomes more and more inspiring that, you're not giving up on life.
There's no age limit for life. I mean, other than your physical limitations. If you have severe crippling arthritis, obviously you're not going to be out doing stuff like this. But yes, there's no age limit on life. except what you put on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love that because you have, what would we say, the credentials to make that statement with authority. And that's what I appreciate, is that you can say that. Right. You're proving that. And I appreciate your example. I really do. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to be here to do that for you.
Yes. And I cannot wait for that documentary. So, we already talked about this, but the name of your book is The Sharp End of Life. Mm-hmm. You can purchase that book, or you can listen to it on Audible, which is what I did because I could do it while I was moving about. Right. We've got the upcoming documentary in 2023. Give me the name of that again.
It's called Climbing into Life.
Climbing into Life. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And is there any other way that people can connect with you?
Sure. They can follow me on Instagram. It's both my names, Dierdre Wolownick, at Dierdre Wolownick, or they might enjoy reading my blog, and that's deirdrew.us, deirdrew.us. It's a very esoteric blog. I blog about whatever is on my mind, and I've been an essay writer all my life and an article writer all my life, so a lot of them are fun journeys. Dierdre Wolownick on Instagram, or Facebook as well, Dierdre Wolownick.
Wonderful. Well, Dierdre, again, I'm so grateful that you said yes to me and these serendipities of life where, I have a podcast and I meet someone and they introduce me to someone and I get the pleasure of spending time with amazing people like yourself. So
it's been fun for me too.
Awesome.
Thanks for inviting me. Okay.
My pleasure. All right, friends, if you head on over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 280, that is where you're going to find this second part of Dierdre's story. And now, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is the second part of a two-part conversation. So you can find the first conversation, July 25th, 2022, episode 279. This is part 2, episode 280, August 1st of 2022. Go ahead and listen to those. If you find these conversations inspiring, please take the time to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Follow Dierdre, support her by getting a hold of her book, and be a voice for the possibility of people over the age of 50, 60, 70, living a life that is vibrant, exciting, purposeful, and giving us all a reason to want to get up in the morning. It does not have to end. Am I right?
Amen to that.
All right. Awesome. Well, friends, thank you again for being with us this week. We look forward to sharing more inspirational conversations with you in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.